Hi, I'm delighted to be joined by Sarah and Holly to talk about the ESG challenges facing the technology, media and telecommunications sector and the implications for tax leaders. So welcome to you both. I'm going to start with you, Holly. What are the key ESG drivers affecting this sector?
Sure. So, many of the TMT companies, they are big household names, consumer brands, consumer facing. And who's buying their products? Who uses tech on the most regular basis? Who knows the most about it? It is millennials and Gen Z. And equally, who cares the most about sustainability and whose purchasing decisions are most likely to be influenced by it? It's the same demographic. So it is vitally important that these companies have a strong ESG performance, whether that's across climate change, sustainable supply chains, or the responsible use of people's data. Because if they don't, the reputational damage and financial impact, a knock-on effect of that, is potentially really significant. So there's a lot of focus on good governance, strategy, balanced reporting, and strong data and disclosure, and also regulations that we'll touch on a bit later, I believe.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll come back to regulations. So Sarah, coming to you, what does this mean for tax functions and how should tax leaders be responding?
I would probably echo Holly's words and say that regulation is key. Obviously, that's not just a tax area, but tax has got a really important part to play in understanding what regulations apply and how the business responds to them. I think the other one would be the circular economy, sustainability, and really looking at all the diversity of actions within that can influence the ESG environment. In terms of how tax leaders can respond, I think there's probably two ways, and they are both potentially quite obvious, but firstly, really properly do understand your business. This is a great opportunity to get to understand a lot more about where you operate, how you operate, your supply chain, your value chains in all parts of your business. And then linked to that is thinking about your stakeholders and your network. So traditionally tax perhaps might be mainly linked into people like legal and finance and treasury. For ESG, really broaden that out and get to know people across the full range of your business, whether that's sustainability, operations, procurement, logistics. It's a really great opportunity to really get to understand what's happening in your business.
Perfect. So we're going to delve into the regulations a bit more now. So interested in what regulations are coming down the line, what the future landscape looks like. Maybe we'll start with you, Sarah, and then on to Holly.
So I think for tax, I would probably choose one around waste and packaging, actually. And I think that probably does apply quite broadly across the TMT sector. There's a real change happening in Europe around the volume and the variety of the type of regulation that's coming in. And a lot of those have got tax elements, either directly or indirectly. And so businesses are turning to tax teams to understand more about them.
And Holly?
I think, zooming out a bit further from that as well, there's a lot going on in the global landscape at the moment. Three big regulations that everyone should be aware of working in this sector. That's the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, the CSRD, which is a European regulation, but not just relevant for EU listed companies. If UK, US companies have got large subsidiaries that surpass a threshold, they will be in scope 2. There's 12 sustainability standards for the CSRD, and depending on the ESG issues that are material to your business, you'll have to potentially disclose hundreds more ESG disclosures. So that's really the biggest one. We've then got the Securities and Exchange Commission in the US, who have drafted and are likely to publish some climate-focused standards. And we've also got the International Sustainability Standards Board, lots of acronyms, the ISSB they are a global organisation. They have published some sustainability standards for adoption. The UK has committed to adopt those. They are initially climate focused, but will be expanded out.
Taking a step broader than regulations, I'm interested in your views on what you see as the biggest opportunities and challenges flowing from ESG across this sector, and maybe we'll come to you first, Holly.
Sure, and maybe I'll start with the opportunity. So I think the opportunity across ESG as a whole is huge for the TMT sector. You know, loads in the E with Internet of Things, increased connectivity to reduce carbon emissions. But even more unique, in my opinion, to the sector is the opportunity on the social side, so the S of ESG. You know, ultimately these companies are connecting people, they're bringing technology to everybody, and you know, giving people access to better finance, better healthcare, to social media, you know, news being a window on the world, and that's huge for empowering people across the world.
Coming to you, Sarah, for your views.
I think probably the challenge for the TMT sector is that it is so broad. If we think about the types of companies that are included within the sector, there's real variety there. And that does mean that it can be quite challenging to find one easy, quick win in order to affect ESG change, unlike other sectors where perhaps there is one obvious action to take. I think on the flip side of that, though, is that if you do take that time to understand in depth a bit more about your organisation and what's driving the ESG challenges and opportunities, that gives you a really rich variety of opportunities to pursue, and you can really affect change across a much broader base.
So as a tax leader in TMT, Sarah, what would you have at the top of your to-do list?
I probably would say that looking at your supply and your value chain through that sustainability lens would be a really, really useful and helpful thing to do. It's always nice as tax professionals to be able to bring something back to the business. I think that kind of exercise really helps you to uncover where there might be some opportunities. So perhaps incentives or grants or reliefs that might be available. But also, you know, we spoke about data earlier. An enormous amount of data is collected for tax purposes, and where that has that ESG angle on it, we can be playing that back to the business and really adding value back to the business with that data.
Perfect, so thank you, it's been a real pleasure. Sarah, Holly, thank you very much for joining me today.